Welcome to Money on Tap. Money on Tap, your personal finance headquarters, where we bring out the professionals' experience and some fun in what we call three-dimensional investing, utilizing insurance, brokerage, and fee-based planning. That's what we do on this show. We look at all sides of the issues, and we bring a fully independent planning perspective to the table.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money on Tap. My name is Seth Krussman, joined here once again with Dan Micklin and Ben Brayshaw. How you guys doing today?
I'm doing great, Seth. How are you doing?
Amazing.
Dan,
amazing.
How about you?
Yeah.
I'm doing pretty good.
I want you to one-up Seth. I want you to one-up him right now.
What's better than amazing? Phenomenal? Is that better than amazing?
Done.
All right. I'll take it.
Seth, you need to improve the quality of your day.
Oh, man. I feel like I don't know how to improve on what's just, well, you know what? That's the goal, right? We're going to improve our day here with our listeners today as we join in a discussion around personal finance. Title today for our show is the Millionaire Marathon. We talked last show around some mindset around being an investor and how to be an investor throughout bear markets, let alone bull markets. But some of that mindset stuff, and there's so many different parts around finances and the opportunity within finance or investing, as well as some of the challenge. We're here to help, right? That's why we're here right now. As amazing as my day has been, or phenomenal as Dan's day has been, and Ben, we're happy you're here. There's a lot that we get to learn together, and that's what it's about, being together. And there's different niches that different professionals have an opportunity or they facilitate, and we're not going to be everything to everybody, and we're not trying to be that, right? What we're doing here today is we're talking about three-dimensional investing. We're talking about planning for your next steps of retirement or whatever your process is, wherever you're at. We're connecting those pieces. So, we are doing some financial coaching in that, but that's really not what we do as financial planners. We're planners. We take a look at the entire industry, and we bring the entire industry to bear for our clients and the knowledge of that to you in a way that helps you to engage and take that next step forward. And with that, there's two things that you need to have prepared today. All right. First of all, you can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. You're going to want to hold on to both of those throughout the show. There's some neat opportunities to engage with us here today. After that, it is time for Money in the News.
And first up, we got new Buy the Dip ETF uses AI tech to target oversold stocks. And this is coming to us from Seeking Alpha, authored by Jason Capel. And this Buy the Dip terminology is something that, I really remember hearing it most frequently when kind of day trading got hot during the pandemic. I know it's kind of an old concept, but, with social media world jumping into the investment and day trading notion, that's a term that we just heard over and over and over again. And what it has to do with is, essentially reading charts, right? So you're looking at a stock chart to see what its price fluctuation has looked like. And when you see that particular stock has taken a sharp downturn, but you feel as though, potentially there's a rebound ahead, maybe the stock got dragged down just by the nature of the index it's in, or maybe it's feeling some undue pressures from rising interest rates or whatever the situation may be, but you truly believe in that company and you think long-term it's a good buy, the idea of buy the dip essentially just means that you think there's a discounted opportunity here. And what's happened, what the article's highlighting, is that an ETF company, the BTD Capital Fund, has created this particular ETF that is using AI, artificial intelligence, to find those opportunities for you, and it guides them in their trading as well. So this is one of those kind of quantitative models that is using the raw data that's out there about performance and fluctuations to, be the portfolio manager, to look for those opportunities, to make those buys and make those sells in what they believe is a timely fashion, which I thought was a pretty interesting article and a pretty interesting concept. Again, the notion of buy the dip got very popular, and people have been trying to find those opportunities through their own means. But having AI, theoretically, who knows how well this works, but essentially scan the field of all equities to find those opportunities for you is, I think, a pretty interesting tool.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's been talking about buying the dip and, hey, this stock's oversold. And, one of the hardest parts about understanding a stock that's oversold is that somebody is selling something to you that they think they're selling it at the best opportune time, that this thing's going farther down. So to buy in the dip, and that concept of it is, there's two people on every side of the trade. And it's really hard to swallow that when you're buying something that somebody else is like, I can't wait to get rid of this, or I need to get rid of this. And there's enough people out there selling it that it caused the dip. And if it's going down, there's more people selling than there are buying.
I mean, that's the nature of an exchange, right? Two people disagree about the value of something, and here we go. We're going to make a deal at a given price.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think that's one of the things a lot of people kind of, probably from the average investor is looking at the concept of a quick, easy buck. Hey, listen, this thing's oversold. I think I'm going to get a rebound. You got to really understand the financials to run a company. I mean, that's really where it starts. Like, okay, what's the PE? Is it actually making money? I mean, how many companies have go public that don't even make money? It's scary. And so I think that's really kind of a complicated conversation for a lot of people and goes into significant depth. But I do like the idea of an ETF that does stuff like this. I mean, this is interesting, using some AI and some predictability. There might, there seems to be the opportunity for this. I bought stocks on the dip where I'm like, this is, in my opinion, a super strong company. I think there's some long-term hold. I think Warren Buffett is a great example of this kind of activity happening in the market all the time. I mean, he's buying and always buying Apple. He's always buying Apple, it seems like, right? And the thing is 5 years, 10 years, 20 years ago when he was buying Apple, like, he didn't care if it was super high because he kind of foreshadowed that this thing was going and going and going. He just kept buying and buying and buying. So, you might look at something and say, hey, this thing is in a dip, but somebody might be saying this is in 5 or 10 years from now, it's going to be 10 times that. I don't really care what number I get out of it. I'm going to hold it.
And this ETF is really new. So I found this article kind of more on the edge of kind of entertainment more so than investment advice.
Oh, yeah.
This is a true flyer.
Don't buy this thing.
This is a flyer. Not a bad idea to dabble in, I guess. Well, actually, probably is. But I think it's an interesting concept. It's a good way to leverage technology. But other than that, I got no idea what's going on behind the curtain here.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah, a couple of things super in line with this are that the management fees are around 1.5 or 1.3%, and that has to do typically because it's super actively managed, and it being in an ETF wrapper, avoiding some of the taxability in terms of the ratio that it's turning this portfolio. It's going to be a very high turn ratio here for what are they buying, what are they selling, how frequently, and all those things, typically creating a taxable scenario if you were to just be doing it in, say a mutual fund or outside of that ETF wrapper. So great thought. Looking forward to seeing how this works out. At the moment, they don't have a ton under the management, and that's another risk factor as well, besides the newness of it. But cannot wait to see what else happens down the pipe. Speaking of super risky, SPAC. That's a term we haven't brought up for a long time. Kind of wondering what the feedback's going to be on that. But yeah, the digital world gains as Donald Trump says he will make a major announcement on Thursday. So interesting, how much the headlines are kind of wrapped around the name of Trump again, and what's going to be happening here, because his social media app, Truth social media app, rose 8% after that announcement.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing for sure is that, when he speaks through whatever platform it is, he drives an audience. And I think the play and the notion behind the SPAC is, how many people are going to subscribe? Is this thing going to make money? Because we've all kind of seen what the impact was at Twitter, and until he was removed. Now he's been given the ability to get back on Twitter, but he's already made the commitment that he won't. He's going to stick with
he's not. He hasn't tweeted. He doesn't care. And I'm not surprised. I mean, and he's as stubborn as they're going to come. So, right. And he started his own business because they wouldn't let him tweet. So why would you? And I don't think that's an Elon Musk thing. I don't think that has anything. I don't think the two cross. Do you?
No, not at all. I mean, sidebar news, the former CEO of Twitter has come out today and basically said all these lack of free speech issues were his fault and not so much Elon's. But either way, that whole story of, which platform and who's getting restricted is really a pretty torrid tale. It's not good business.
Oh yeah, no, they've all sorts of bad stuff. And I think, there's definitely a complication between social media and news. Right. I mean,
it's not the same thing.
It's not the same thing, but at the same time, it's like to be shutting people down in an open forum because you don't agree with them politically. That's a problem, especially when people are getting a bunch of their news from there. So,
yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that it's become a major presence in how any information gets exchanged. But there isn't even the pretense of any kind of journalistic integrity. Not that you find that necessarily in major newspapers, publications that, would lead you to believe that they possess that. But,
MSLSD.
In places like Twitter and Truth Social, there isn't even, they don't even pretend to offer that.
Oh, I know.
And they shouldn't because it's not there.
Yeah. But I do think that the breakdown of this whole world is now causing for regulation in this. How are they going to crisscross news and free speech inside social media, which is a private corporation? Like, how do you do that?
And I don't know what this would mean for the future of these platforms, and we're kind of getting way off track here, but, I heard Facebook Meta recently said that, if they're required to pay for news content, that's provided essentially for free to them, that they're just going to stop offering news, which might be the way to go for all these platforms, quite honestly.
Yeah.
Shoot, you guys, I don't want to, I feel like somebody's really competing for the king of the garbage heap. It's just so much trash out there. Like, who wants to own it?
Yeah, not me. I don't like any of those stocks.
That's my take.
That's investment advice. Don't buy any of them.
SEC. Yeah, they're charging. Oh, we're still in the social media thing.
I know. This is right. This is right in our wheelhouse. Next.
The SEC charges 8 social media influencers in a $100 million pump and dump scheme. I get it while we're talking about this. For those that don't understand or have never come across a pump and dump, it is it's not okay. It's basically where people out there own something, like own the stock, and then go out and promote the heck out of it, and everybody buys in and buys up the price of that stock, and then the backside of it, they're dropping their shares. And so what they've done is they've artificially enhanced or escalated the price of that stock so that they can be profitable. But most of the time, whoever's invested in that winds up losing, and there isn't transparency, and it is a crime. So apparently we have some social media influencers, including Mr. Zach Morris, who, at the point, it's allegedly has been promoting certain stocks on, Twitter and Discord and other places, and been basically promoting with 8 other people on all these ats and, handles are included in this on podcasts and other places. And in the back of this have sold off their shares, and it's been a profit of approximately $100 million, which is not in the least bit small.
No, I mean, this is a kind of tried and true crime that's been happening forever. I mean, we all grew up, we probably remember the movie Boiler Room, right? This is exactly what they were up to. So, back then they were using it with 100 guys on the phone, kind of pumping up the stock, calling individual investors, reaching out on an individual level. But social media, eliminates the need for that. People actually come to these people and just absolutely consume the news, consume the quasi-advice, and make financial bets based upon what they're hearing. And, when you look through the names of the people charged, I mean, the whole, notion of influencers is something that kind of gets under my skin anyway. But, words of wisdom, don't take your investment advice from Mystic Mac, Laid Back, or the Stock Sniper. Those are probably not where you want to go.
Oh man, I think the thing is like, I wish we had as many listeners as these podcasters and so forth were having. Sad to say we only came in second on that list, but no, but in reality, I mean, what ends up happening is people take power and they always take it to the extreme, and then, it turns into be bad. And I I think that's, really one of these things where you have to really go back and look at the financials of a company and say, do I want this company in my portfolio? Does this match my goals, my intent, my objectives, my time horizon? Can I hold this for a long period of time? Do I think this company's going to be profitable, or is it profitable? I personally like to own companies that are profitable. That happens to be a favorite of mine. And so if you don't get through those things, you got problems, and people got burned.
I mean, bottom line is, take your advice, from licensed professionals, people who have, some standing in the industry, some education behind, what it is that they would offer you in terms of advice and different investments to make. Just because these guys have a large following on an internet platform doesn't mean they know anything about the stock market. And, in reality, what's come to be the case here, it's not just ignorance at play, it's crime. These people are criminals.
Yeah, agree. So next up we have Nick Smith with Personal Wealth Adventures. And, one of the things that we've realized over the course of, a couple decades, or, probably 100 years of experience between all the guys that are in our firm, is that people need help outside of just financial planning, just outside of the idea of how do I manage my wealth? How do I handle these insurance concerns? I need legal support. We bring attorneys in. We need, tax support. We bring CPAs in. Some people just need simple coaching, like they're in debt or they're struggling through a financial awareness. And the coaching world has really, kind of exploded, I would say. This is one of those areas, that people have really looked for some advice, some mentoring, some, kind of support along the way to figure out budgeting and affordability and managing debt and all of those things. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you have debt, but there's a lot of adults, parents that want to see their kids get engaged financially. A lot of churches, a lot of organizations have embraced Dave Ramsey and that system and so forth. But that's really more to, kind of the generalized piece. But some people want a personal touch. Nick Smith is somebody who reached out to us about 6 months ago. We don't have anything to speak of specifically with clients or engagement. We're not sponsoring his services. But what we thought about today as a show was really trying to open up the eyes of what coaching is, or what people are looking for in the coaching world. Maybe what might be engaging for people that's outside the financial planning space, that's outside of wealth management. It's not about investing. It's more about just kind of getting through the daily grind. And I think, Nick really offered a couple of perspectives that we honestly, all three of us said, that's really very interesting. And that's something that I hadn't considered. Something about what millennials are perceiving and what their needs are in a generation that has known that they can get information off the internet at a touch of a button and feel the idea of being personally informed easily. And yet there are people who are seeking coaching on a regular basis. So with that, we were going to introduce Nick here. But before we do that, we're going to take a quick break. You're listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com.
Folks, it is so much fun for us to bring you Money on Tap. My name's Seth Krussman, and I am one of the hosts here at Money on Tap. I'm also a financial planner. That's what we do. That's what Ben and I do. And the fun part is we get to have this radio show. We talk about important things that we think you need to listen to and be aware of to help raise the bar as far as your financial literacy. It's a big part of what we're trying to do here. The other thing that we're doing here as well, as financial planners, we are welcoming you to come and call us and to join us at Brayshaw Financial Group. Experience what complete wealth management looks like. Let's take a look at all sides of the issue, get a three-dimensional perspective, and put a plan around your next step. It's so critical. And so many people just leave this part out and then they find out later, if I only would have known. Hey, don't let that be your story. Give us a call at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. If you have $250,000 of investable assets today, our plan is free to you. We think it's important for you to know the facts and have a playbook so you can have a successful retirement. Give us a call at 855-226-8551. Thanks for listening.
We appreciate you listening to Money on Tap with Ben, Seth, and Dan. You can contact us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. And now, more of this week's program.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. And it is so good to have aboard with us today Nick Smith with Personal Wealth Adventures. Nick is a personal coach. And what he's bringing to the table today is absolutely necessary. And it's a pleasure for us to introduce you. Nick, welcome to Money on Tap. So good to have you with us today.
Great. Thank you very much. It's great to be here, Seth.
Yeah. So Nick, we've got a lot to cover. First of all, I want to just throw this out there for you. If you connect in any way, or if you have a child or a grandchild or somebody that you know or love that you think might need some help in the direction of personal finance, and might just need that extra touch to really help them get where they need to go to be successful just around their finances, or even getting in themselves to the level where they can be investors. Nick is a resource, and I want to put this out there for you because we have some giveaways for you today. Number one, if you email us or call us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com, for the first 5 callers or emails, there is a month of Nick's coaching for you, free. 1 free month of Nick's coaching available for you. So we'll give you the phone number and that info, as always, throughout the show. But also, if you are one of the first, if you miss out on that, don't worry. There's more. Nick has a book that's out there for you, and this is the Millionaire Marathon is the name of the book, and that's the name of our show here today, is Millionaire Marathon, that Nick wants to give the first 25 people that connect with us here a copy of that book. And so we have that available for you as well. So that's out there first and foremost. Without further ado, let's jump into some time with Nick today and learn more about what it is that Nick's bringing to the table, how he's working with people, and how he's really changing people's lives through the process of the wealth adventure, personal wealth adventures process.
All right. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Seth. And thank you, Ben and Dan, for having me on the show. So my coaching philosophy really focuses on the millennial mindset. And I believe that millennials are very interested in building their own plans. We are not necessarily a group that would take a perfectly curated plan or a written out budget and then say, okay, go and use this. We are more of the mindset of we have so much information available to us online and we're able to do our own self-education that we're not really interested in seeing what someone else thinks we should do. And instead, we want to feel empowered to build our own plan. So my approach with my clients is definitely one where I try to first understand where they would like to be. And then I kind of treat myself like the Google Maps of personal finance, where I kind of help build their directions to be able to arrive at their financial destination. So I come from a perspective of making sure that people have a full understanding of what their personal finance situation is like currently and how we can build directions together for them to be there. So I myself am actually from the Concord, New Hampshire area, born and raised. I now live south of DC in Virginia, and I have really gone through a lot of financial ups and downs throughout my own personal life. Actually, my family, when I was in college, had a transformational financial event where our home was foreclosed on, and we went from living in a 2,000 square foot home to just a 500 square foot apartment living someone else's property. And it was really a time of reflection for my family and myself. And I made a commitment to myself that when I was old enough to have my own career and be responsible for my own finances, that I would ensure I was never in that situation. And so I have taken multiple years and years and hundreds of hours of self-education to really understand fully all the areas and concepts to be successful in personal finance. And, even when I was growing up, Seth, my family would actually drive around to affluent neighborhoods, and we would look at large homes and we would look at nice cars. And I had this belief that those people were rich and that they must have had a lot of money in the bank. And as I grew older and I really started to self-educate myself on the world of personal finance, what I really found is that typically people who have large homes or very nice cars, they don't always have that much saved, and they're not always thinking about the future. And so that was a really important lesson for me to learn as I kind of grew in my own career.
And I think that
so
background,
I'm happy to be here on the show and kind of share some concepts.
So I think that background kind of lends to the title of the book, right? So that's your Millionaire Marathon. So tell us a little bit about the book and how the title kind of fits your background.
Definitely. So I myself have ran a few half marathons, but the co-author of the book, he's actually a marathon runner, Eric Widmeyer. He's my brother-in-law. And we really determined that the book could add a lot of value because it is a comparison to long-term training that is required to successfully run a marathon to the long-term horizon to have success in personal finances. So the book is about 12 chapters in a little around 100 pages. So it's a quick read. It's a conversational tone. We do reference official materials throughout. So statistics or other things that we have referenced in the book all have official footnotes as needed. And the theme of each chapter is starting out with a comparison to running a marathon and then outlining the importance of the topic of the chapter and then wrapping up with action steps. And so we view it as a way to have a training plan with definitive action steps for running your own financial marathon and being successful in your personal finances. So one of the interesting chapters is about the power of compound interest. So this chapter outlines the difference between if someone were to start saving at the age of 20 versus at the age of 30 versus at the age of 40. And I think that's one of those areas where as early as you can start, it can make such a huge difference because one of the most valuable assets that younger people have on their side when it comes to building wealth is the concept of time and allowing interest to compound over time. I think the other chapter that is especially interesting too is called conspicuous consumption. And this concept is that people around you will be making financial decisions, maybe like buying a new car or moving into a nicer home or apartment. And you feel like you're also at their level. And so you should buy a new car or you should move as well. And so the concept is it's very easy as you continue in your career to grow your lifestyle. And it's important to be aware of that so that as you're receiving future increases in your salary, you can increase your savings rate versus your expenses.
And so what is working with you look like? There's a lot of people who suffer from, budgetary issues and quite honestly having a real conscious understanding of kind of the ins and outs of their finances on a weekly, monthly, annual basis. We run into a lot of people who, make what appears to be a very healthy salary, but, find themselves in a position where managing debt and truly saving, it becomes a challenge that, based upon the kind of raw math of it, shouldn't be as big an issue as it is. So if someone was to engage you or refer someone to you, a loved one who they believe is facing these challenges, what's the process look like?
Yeah, so as I was mentioning earlier, the first start for me is figuring out where do people want to get to. So it's important to understand people's short term, which would be kind of in the next 6 months to a year financial goals, and then 3 to 5 years out, and then maybe long term if they are familiar with what those goals are. From there, we then first start out with tracking expenses. So I believe that tracking 3 months worth of expenses in detail really gives a client the transparency of where is their money going from month to month. What are the categories that are fixed in nature versus those that are much more variable? And then based on the tracking of the expenses and the transparency of where the money is going, the client is then able to address, is their current spending behavior bringing them toward their ultimate goals? And that's where we're able to have a conversation about empowering. As I was mentioning earlier with millennials, it's important to have us really be sure that we have a stake and involvement throughout, because that will greatly increase the chance of our success in maintaining that plan. And so being able to identify what behaviors are causing the result of those transactions then allow us to come up with what's called a budgeted amount, which is the average of how much is spent over those 3 months for each category. And then once we have that, the next month is kind of the test of, will you remain in your budgeted amount, or will you have expenses that are outside of kind of that range that we've come up with?
You know, I
mentioned.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Ben. Yeah.
Well, I just was thinking, you know, all the number of clients I've, met with, all of us have met with hundreds of people, thousands of people, maybe even over the last 20 some odd years. Everyone is coming from constant life changes. I mean, no one comes through the door because, they all of a sudden said, you know what, everything's status quo and I really need to just, re-engage. It's usually there's something driving a decision, a financial decision. It's usually something happens. So it's, for as much as a financial coach like Nick could be a resource for somebody who's struggling with just managing their spending inside their, income, and really trying to, create some accountability in this space. There's people who, lose a loved one, that, maybe the husband managed all the money and he passed away and they don't even know what to do. They don't even know where things are being held. And then there's the person who's, it's just the loss of revenue from Social Security alone might be a burden for somebody to figure out, like, well, how do I restructure that kind of thing? Not necessarily something that you'd go to a financial planner for, but you might look for a financial coach. And I think that's kind of an interesting space. Nick, can you speak a little bit to, the different types of people you've worked with in this arena?
Yeah, definitely. So some clients that I have are just looking for education. So they're actually pretty well defined for their savings. They have a budget where they spend less than they make. And so in general, from the viewpoint of how they're doing in their personal finances, they're doing quite well. But from the perception of what are the financial pieces of a coaching plan, and what does it mean to be able to save for a future down payment, for example, for a home, or how does that savings translate into them being able to achieve their goals? That's where I can help kind of connect that. So they have this long-term goal that they want to get to. They understand where they are month to month, but they're looking for kind of education and connection on how do they build the directions to be able to achieve their long-term goal. So that's kind of one client. Another client type would be someone who is currently spending more than they make. They've accumulated a sizable amount of debt, and they're looking to try to determine what is the best way to not only change my spending behavior, but also be able to get out of debt. And so I think those are kind of some of the example clients I've worked with.
Folks are listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. We're talking with Nick Smith. Personal Wealth Adventures is the name of his company. And he is a coach, a financial coach that has just defined a couple of different opportunities for you or somebody that you know or love to connect with him. And when you do that, if you reach out to us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com, the first 5 that connect that would like financial coaching will receive 1 free month of coaching from Nick. And the first 25 will receive a book, his Millionaire Marathon book. That's what we're talking about here on Money on Tap, is being in that Millionaire Marathon. And we're going to hear more from Nick, and we can't wait when we come right back. You're listening to Money on Tap.
For a number of our listeners, they have a lot of questions, and you might be one of them. Today, we're just offering what we call Zoominars, webinars over Zoom meeting rooms, where we have top experts, Social Security, estate planning, and financial planning experts for you to speak with, do a private consultation that way today. We're also having webinar-based Zoominars where we're going to have multiple groups where you can be part of that and enjoy that as well. Give us a call at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com to schedule your Zoominar.
You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. And now, more Money on Tap with Ben, Seth, and Dan.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. With us today is Nick Smith from Personal Wealth Adventures. Nick is a coach, a financial coach that has also written a book, and today is offering for the first 25 to connect with us in an email or call us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. And we've got a code there for you that you can get a free book of his personal or his Millionaire Marathon book. Also, if you call and you're one of the first 5 callers and you'd like a month of free coaching, that's one of the ways that you can do that as well. Just give us a call at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. We've got a code for you to get in touch with Nick. And what a great gift for a friend, a family member, or yourself. If this is something that you're connecting with and you're like, hey, I really want to get my debt under control and get a plan and a budget and really some good, healthy habits and understanding around my personal finance journey. I want to become a better investor, and I want to connect with Ben and Dan and Seth and Money on Tap and start working with them and really put this plan together. This is a great step in the right direction for you. And you know what? I love that we're at this New Year point in time when so many people are pulling these things together that's saying, I really, really want to get this happening for myself. Well, here's your opportunity, you guys. Without further ado, we're going to jump back in with Nick and learn more about, kind of the personal touch that he has. How does he do what he does?
All right. Well, thank you, Seth. So where we left off, where we were talking about the tracking of expenses and the creation of a budgeted amount, and then being able to test that amount in future months. So I also want to review the main areas of a budget. So I define 4 categories, also within my book as well. The first is called immediate expenses. And these are things that are typically pretty fixed from month to month, something such as a rent payment or your mortgage, utilities, car insurance, student loans, that type of thing. And this is really where you want to assign your paycheck first. You want to be sure that you can pay for your immediate expenses. From there, we have necessary expenses. These are things that are required to live, but could be more variable in nature. Things such as groceries or clothing and medical expenses, those types of things. After that, we have a category called just for fun. This is dining out or going to concerts or going to shows, travel, things that you don't necessarily need to do, but bring you a lot of joy. And then the final part is savings. And so when I first start working with clients, after we've tracked the expenses, the savings is really just a calculation of income minus expenses. From there, we have a conversation about, is that amount of savings what you need to be able to lead you to achieving your long-term goals that we had talked about in one of your earlier sessions? And if not, then we explore what spending behaviors would need to change. Now, I just want to make a note here that personal finance is definitely something that is very confidential for people. And so as a financial coach, I take people's privacy and security extremely seriously. I have an official contract that is included when clients start working with me. And what I do is I set up a Google Drive folder that can be shared with themselves and whoever else in their lives that they would like to share it with. I provide meeting minutes after every session, so it's completely transparent what we've talked about and what the client has for action items. And typically clients will post a statement, maybe just for 1 month, so that we can have a good place to start from. And then future months, they'll just track themselves. So as the coach, I actually see very little, if any, details about bank accounts or anything like that. I never see full account numbers. So it's definitely kept very secure, very locked down, and I want to be sure that my client's financial protection is top of mind for me. So in addition to the 4 categories of the budget, we also work on what's called a spending calendar. So I find this is really helpful for clients to really be able to get a groove, if you will, on how to spend their money. So typically what people see is the last paycheck they receive of the month usually has to go toward a large amount of immediate expenses in the early part of the next month. So your rent, your insurance, your utilities, those are usually front-loaded at the start of a month. And so you want to be sure that you have money in your bank account to be able to pay those. The second check of the month is typically one that doesn't have as many of those immediate expenses. And so that may be the one that is more available to be able to save. So just as a quick story, I had a client who was saving $500 a month. Their goal was to save $250 per paycheck. But because they hadn't really tracked out exactly when their expenses were due, what they were doing is they were pulling from their savings every month to be able to cover the expenses. And it was kind of a mental uphill battle because they felt like they weren't saving as much as they wanted to, when in reality, they could just shift their saving timing to be the second paycheck of the month, all 500, and now all of a sudden they're not having to pull from their savings. So that's just one small example about how the transparency of the money flow can also really help inform a client's mental state as well and ensure that they have positivity about the experience and that they're engaged and wanting to continue to save. The other thing I wanted to mention is if someone is in a debt payoff scenario and they're looking at a pretty large debt balance that they want to be able to start attacking and really be able to pay down, I recommend that they actually build an emergency savings first. So an emergency savings is around $2,000 to $3,000, and the goal of that is to ensure that you have cushion to absorb any possible financial events that could occur without having to put it on a credit card. In addition, it allows you to get a proof of concept of how much money per month out of what am I making can I put toward a future debt payoff? Well, instead of giving it to the financial institution, let's pay ourselves first. Let's really start to get that motivation to build up an emergency savings for ourselves. And then once we have a proof of concept, we have the emergency savings, we've removed the stress of needing to always pull out the credit card in emergencies. Now we can just repurpose that amount per month that we were using toward our emergency savings and be able to aggressively and successfully attack the debt. So those were just some things I wanted to mention as far as some of the future stages of working with clients.
You mentioned when we were kind of getting prepared for the show, your role as, and I like this phrase, accountability partner. So share with us a little bit, if you can, how you define that role specifically, and what it's like when you see a client, someone you're working with, who's kind of found themselves running off a track a little bit.
Yeah, so after every session, I agree with the client to a series of action steps. And so what I do is when I make the meeting minutes available, I include the action steps. And if I'm working with a client where their next session is maybe 3 to 4 weeks down the road, what I'll do is I'll send a reminder a week in, and I'll just follow up. Hey, how are these action steps doing? Sometimes it's that the client needs to contact a financial institution to find out more information. Sometimes it's that they need to adjust their own spending behavior. And so being able to check in with them, it's just a quick note via email, allows them to kind of have that mental reminder of, oh yeah, that's right, I need to be sure I'm doing this. Finances is very personal. So there's typically not a whole lot of people that are around in your life kind of asking you about your finances. And so being a financial coach allows me to support that person in their journey. It's typically not something that you overly share with your friends and maybe even your family. So being an accountability partner allows the person to really have someone to support them in their journey.
So tell us a little bit about what what engagement looks like. What someone that's listening here today, we've sparked some interest. They're committed to making some change, or at least getting that other layer of verification that they are in fact on the right track. So they take us up on the offer. What does it look like from there?
Yeah, so typically I work with clients for 1 month or 3 months worth of sessions. So a 1 month session program includes 2 1-hour sessions and 2 30-minute sessions. But I'm very flexible, and I really like to work with the client to ensure that those sessions can be spread out over 2, 3, or even 4 months. So although it's 1 month's worth of sessions, it doesn't necessarily need to be completed all within 1 month of elapsed time. And it's really based on the client's needs as well as their goals. Sometimes spending behavior takes time to take effect, so I wouldn't want to meet with someone weekly when we really don't have a lot to talk about. The 3-month program really includes larger type discussions and larger goal settings that aren't just related to tracking of expenses or ensuring that they're saving a certain amount per month. It's about, well, if I want to be able to buy a house 5 years from now, what does that look like? What does my financial picture require for me to be able to achieve that? Or if I'm looking at some future life events coming up, such as I really need to get a new car, but I'm not sure what would be the amount of the car that I can afford, and what impact would that have on my overall budget? Those types of things are things that we work on in the month 2 or month 3 as far as the sessions go.
Folks, you're listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. Today, we are talking with Nick Smith from Personal Wealth Adventures. Nick is a coach, a financial coach, who's co-authored a book, Your Millionaire Marathon, the young adult financial training guide. And the services that he's providing are absolutely essential, I think, especially in this day and age where people are struggling to figure out how to get out of debt or how to move themselves forward financially. That personal touch is essential. And Nick is with us for a little bit longer, has an offer here for you if you call us or email us. Well, call us at 855-226-8551 or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com. We will give you a code so that you can be either one of 5 of the first callers to receive 1 free month of Nick's coaching, or of the first 25 that reach out to us will receive his book, Your Millionaire Marathon, the Young Adults Financial Training Guide. This is amazing for you if you're looking for how to connect with your kids, your grandkids, somebody that you care about, yourself, in making some changes in this year moving forward. Without further ado, we want to just spend as much time as possible with Nick, connecting on some of the story here, some of the reality of what it is working with you and how that has improved some of the lives of people that you've worked with.
Yeah, thank you, Seth. I appreciate that. So what I think about is really where my coaching relationship starts. And it's with asking the clients in a free session, introductory session, what is their stress level around their day-to-day finances, and what is their level of education? And what I hear from a lot of clients in the beginning is that they think of finances on a day-to-day basis. They have a high level of stress every time they're at a counter to pay for something. And what's interesting is some of these clients shouldn't have stress, right? They actually make a great income, they have low expenses, but the problem is they haven't been able to see really what their financial picture looks like. And so that is really what drives me. And that's one of the reasons I really enjoy coaching and establishing relationships with people, is being able to remove that level of stress so that people have the flexibility to live the life that they choose to live based on their decisions. And I think the other thing too is that, personal finance is very personal. And so it's a difficult thing to talk to your friend about your financial situation, because your friend may make a very different amount. They may live in a different area. Their expenses may be very different. And so what I'm able to do is really be able to partner with people on a personal level and really be able to understand, how can I make sure that they are aware of what they need to do to achieve their long-term financial goals. So I think one example I have is a client that I've worked with where they were spending 25% more than what they made. And there was a really large shift in spending behavior and the mental approach to spending money that we were really able to walk through over a series of sessions. They were able to hone in on very specific expense categories that, what I like to say, didn't bring them joy. It wasn't adding to their overall financial goals. It wasn't bringing them the interest that they wanted, although the expense was very high. And so we were able to talk about, what would it look like if they stopped spending as much, for example, on groceries, and instead were making sure that they were eating leftovers more, or trying to be more efficient with what they were purchasing at the grocery store, maybe not going every night and instead meal planning. And those types of behavioral changes actually led to hundreds of dollars less expenses per month. And now the person that went from 25% overspending, they are now saving hundreds of dollars a month. They're currently building an emergency savings, and they're really on the path to being able to be successful to achieve their financial goals. And that's something that just brings me so much excitement, is being able to help people, give them the tools that they can use then to be successful long term.
Folks, you have been listening to Money on Tap. Joining us here today, Nick Smith. Thank you so much for bringing to the table your expertise in financial coaching and awareness that so many people we talk to that are, have millennials that not always millennials, but that demographic, they have kids in that demographic and grandkids in that demographic, that they're just wanting to see them thrive and be successful, but not knowing how to help. Thank you so much for filling a need and seeing that and bringing that to here with us at Money on Tap today. Folks, yes, you can get free coaching if you are one of the first 5 callers or emailers, or you can also get Your Money, Your Millionaire Marathon, the Young Adult Financial Training Guide book that Nick has co-authored. If you're one of the first 25 to reach out to us today, We've got a code for you. You get in touch with Nick. You get free coaching. You get an amazing book. And what a great gift for yourself or somebody that you care about and love to help them on their way. You're listening to Money on Tap, and you can reach us or get a hold of Nick through us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. Be successful in your investing, folks. Thanks for joining us today.
The views expressed are not necessarily the opinion of this radio station and should not be construed directly or indirectly as an offer to buy or sell any securities mentioned herein. Investing is subject to risks, including loss of principal invested. No strategy, product, material, or tool mentioned can assure a profit nor protect against loss. Please note that individual situations can vary. Therefore, the information, products, materials, or tools mentioned should be relied upon when coordinated with individual professional advice. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. This show may be subsidized in whole or in part by a product sponsor or issuer. Securities and advisory services offered through SagePoint Financial Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC, and a registered investment advisor. All other services offered through Brayshaw Financial Group LLC are independent of SagePoint Financial. SagePoint Financial and Brayshaw Financial Group do not provide tax or legal advice. Main office is located at 116 South River Road, Bedford, New Hampshire, 03110, and can be reached at toll-free 855-226-8551.